Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips, which is sponsored by Wellness Forum Health, the Wellness Forum Institute, and Make Americans Free Again. The first thing is we're taking applications to start Food Over Medicine clubs. The next group will start in September. And also Make Americans Free Again tribes. I'm going to give you some really good reasons for wanting to do that today. We're building an informed society, which means people need to be informed and active in the areas of health, medicine, and legal issues related to those things, right? So if you're interested in that, let me know. And we have a big free mastery class for health professionals coming up. It's 3 nights, July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is for anybody who is in the healthcare business who wants to learn how to be better at what they do, new ideas for everything from how to help people improve their health to how to promote your business to how to increase your profitability, the whole gamut of business related issues for health professionals. So if you want to sign up for that, all you have to do is send me an email at pampopper@wellnessforum.com. I'll sign you right up and we will record it. So I know no matter when we have these things, there are always people who can't make the time, so we always record it so you can watch it later. And then coming up very soon is the 2025 Research Boot Camp. I try to do this every couple of years. So if you have trouble providing fact-based answers to people who challenge you about your ideas, or you have trouble figuring out who's right, seems like experts disagree a lot, I'm going to teach you how during this weekend to analyze health-related information and determine what's right, what's wrong, and make better decisions about your health. All right, so the first thing I want a big announcement today. July, just next week, will mark Make Americans Free Again's 5th anniversary. Our first meeting took place in Worthington, Ohio on July 16, 2020, 5 years ago. 5 years. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's been that long, and then it seems like I don't remember there was a time when there wasn't Make Americans Free Again, if that makes sense. But it is a major milestone to celebrate. We're still going strong. We have a lot more work to do. I'll come back to this at the end, but it's really appropriate to talk about the work that we have yet to do. And today's video is very much related to the one I put out on Tuesday about minimally conscious or appearing to be brain dead people, what happens to them. A lot of people wrote to me, and I did get a lot of feedback, and I thought I would share some of the feedback because I think these are excellent stories, number one, and some great documentation for why this really is an issue we need to do something about. So the first one was an email from a viewer, said, Pam, your video popped up in my feed today. Took me by surprise. Thank you times infinity. I lost my brother after a 21-day battle of trying to keep the plug in after doctors declared him brain dead after an overdose. Myself and some family members experienced most, if not all, the hospital harassment tactics you described. I was with him every day in the hospital. At the last visit, I told his unresponsive self I was going home early that night so I could wake up early the next day to visit another hospital in hopes of having him transferred. I was prepared to beg. A tear fell down his cheek. I pointed it out to the nearby nurse. She was shocked, who declared she would inform the doctor immediately. I drove home and called the hospital not too long thereafter to check on him, only to learn that they'd just declared him dead due to a heart attack. I was contacted by attorneys who were investigating similar cases. A year or so later, I asked if they could provide security or protection for plaintiffs coming forward, and they couldn't, so I declined to participate in their lawsuit. This happened in 2008, still a hard matter to deal with sometimes. I'm hoping your video is seen by millions. Wanted to convey I'm cheering your message on. I'm Catholic, so it goes without saying I pray to God for your safety because your video today is incredibly brave. Again, thank you. A second one, a personal friend wrote to me and said, today's video confirms what my own mom told me when I got my first driver's license. Clear back in the 80s, when she was a trauma ICU nurse, she observed some of what you covered today and has never been an organ donor. She warned me about this when I turned 16, and all those commercials on TV encouraged you to become one, but she said it was my choice, of course. Got it the first time, but then a classmate was in a bad wreck and the family went through hell. I've never since that had that endorsement and went on to warn my college friends. Just think, it's more than 40 years since my mom learned the dark side of this supposed good choice, and how many still aren't aware of this. Thanks for covering it. And then the third thing I received, a member and friend sent an article about Anne Hesh, who sustained a serious brain injury in an auto accident. There's still considerable debate about whether or not she was actually dead when life support was removed and her organs were harvested. But the article included some other stories in which things were much more clear and also significantly more disturbing. For example, doctors told a woman named Megan Marlowe that her husband was clinically deceased after he suffered neurological death. Doctors informed Mrs. Marlowe that her husband, an organ donor, would be kept on life support until they could locate organ recipients. Marlowe subsequently received a call from the doctor her husband was alive and well. In March 2021, 18-year-old Lewis Roberts was declared brainstem dead after a road accident. Just before he was scheduled for organ harvesting, he began breathing independently, and today he's well enough to play sports. In 2011, 14-year-old Taylor Hale was in an auto accident that left her in a coma. 6 days later, Taylor had a brain hemorrhage with part of her brain sliding into her spinal canal. Doctors informed her parents that Taylor was brain dead and to consider donating her organs. The following day, a family friend prayed with Taylor, asking God to spare her life, and later that day, she was removed from life support. Unexpectedly, however, she began to breathe and a week later started to speak. She was able to attend her high school graduation. And then in 2008, 20-year-old Zach Dunlap experienced a catastrophic brain injury and was declared brain dead. 2 months after this determination, he walked out of the hospital. Studies confirm that this is an important issue that isn't being handled very well right now. For example, a July 2021 study published in JAMA Neurology included close to 500 patients with moderate to severe traumatic brain injury, or TBI. Researchers concluded that decisions regarding the withdrawal of life-sustaining treatment for these types of patients should not be made in the early days following brain injury. Senior author of the study, Jeffrey Manley, chief of neurosurgery at San Francisco General, said, quote, TBI is a life-changing event that can produce significant lasting disability, and there are cases when it is very clear early that a patient will not recover. But results from this study show a significant proportion of our participants experienced major improvements in life functioning, with many regaining independence between 2 weeks and 12 months after injury. And of course, to that, I'll add the book that I mentioned on Tuesday, When Rights Come to Mind. Some of those stories in the book, people woke up and started talking 20 years after the injury. So even 12 months may not be long enough to make an assessment. A 2018 review by the American Academy of Neurology resulted in updated guidelines for disorders of consciousness. The review determined that ICU practices were based on, quote, flawed and outdated information. They recommended that for the first 28 days after a patient's brain injury, physicians, quote, must avoid statements that suggest the patient has a poor or hopeless prognosis. According to Dr. David Greer, the lead author of a 2016 study, not all U.S. hospitals were 100% compliant with the American Academy of Neurology guidelines for determining brain death. This means that, and he wrote this, that one patient can be treated as living at one hospital, but declared brain dead at another. It's a very subjective decision. All of this, and I could go on and on. I received a lot of emails. I even received some this morning that I haven't had a chance to take a look at, but this is why Make Americans Free Again needs to take on this issue. Education is required so that people have a plan in place in the event that something like this happens. They need to be able to make educated decisions about things like indicating organ donor on their driver's licenses. Family members or friends not only need power of attorney, but they need to have an understanding of this issue so that they know not to consent in the early days of a brain injury to disconnection of life support, and really lobby to get the patient moved to a long-term care facility till we can kind of see what's happening. We're going to tackle this issue the way we've tackled everything else during the last 5 years to make a difference and to succeed at it. And so you'll hear more about this, but I hope this gives you a powerful reason to join Make Americans Free Again and be part of our effort to educate and use the legal system both to take care of the egregious excesses and deficiencies of the medical system today. So, a couple more things I'm going to mention really quickly. One of our cases in New York City, in which we represent firefighters who were dismissed because they refused to get the job, is moving to discovery. The wheels of justice turn slowly, but they do eventually turn. And I thought I'd just read you a little section of the brief that our attorney Patty Finn recently wrote about this. She said in a brief concerning this case, Dr. Jay Varma, remember he was the guy with sex parties and dance raves and all that. He was the COVID czar of New York City. She said, she wrote, Dr. Jay Varma's recorded admissions became public in September 2024, revealing the mandate had a predetermined outcome to increase vaccination rates regardless of individual circumstances or religious beliefs. Varma's statements show the exemption process was designed to be very hard and uncomfortable. Those words were used. And that the decision making was arbitrary and capricious, unrelated to public health, and undertaken in bad faith. Quote, everybody's been exposed. This is what Varma said in an undercover tape. Everybody's been exposed to the virus, whether you're exposed to the virus because it's breathed on you or because you got it injected into you. It's the same immune response. Now, this is what the guy said while he was mandating that all employees of the city of New York get a vaccine. In other words, Varma was a public health dictator who was infatuated with his own power. While enforcing lockdowns and mask mandates, he was hosting sex parties with his pediatrician wife and dancing the night away unmasked at raves held in Lower Manhattan, and which included hundreds of people. I think he and the city should pay for what they did to first responders and others. How about you? Well, if you agree, help us celebrate our 5th anniversary and to continue on for another 5, 10, 20 years. I'm nowhere near retirement, so I'm going to be here doing this until we make right the wrongs and excesses of both public health and private health policies. So things you can do: donate, start a tribe, reassemble your tribe if you stopped meeting for various reasons. The 5th anniversary of MAFA is a reason to come together and celebrate, maybe get the group going again. Get involved yourself, start your own tribe. I mean, I can't do this myself. I'm pretty good at high energy work, a lot of output, but nothing like what we need to do here with this issue and so many other issues can be done by one person. So it is time. We don't have a crisis. That's good. We don't have a health crisis right at this minute, other than how many people in the United States are unhealthy, and we'll do our best to try to fix that too. But while we don't have a crisis, something that affects everybody, we can work on some of these issues, like the issue about brain death. Who really is brain dead? Is there any reason to ever disconnect anybody? Is there always some hope that people will wake up and that sort of thing? But these are issues that need attention, and nobody's really paying the right type of attention to them right now. That's what we do. So with that, that's it for now. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, and I will be back to you next week with more news. Thank you so much for watching.